So this is what it all comes down to. In a pivotal showdown against the Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow, the Raptors are in a must-win situation. And over the course of this video, we're going to explain how we got to this point, but also how the Raptors can still sneak up to the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. Let's get into it. Everybody, it's Jacob here, back with Amateur Hour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. We do at least 3 or 4 of these every single week. And if you want the greatest analysis and coverage on the latest Toronto Raptors news, then you need to be subscribed to Amateur Hour Sports. You can help us on a road to 9,000 subscribers and stay up to date with all the great Raptors content coming your way. But let's get into our topic for today's video. It is obviously about the showdown game tomorrow against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Toronto Raptors have had the highest of highs this season, and sometimes they have had the lowest of lows. But despite all of what's going on right now, the Toronto Raptors are still within reasonable distance of getting to that 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. At the very least, the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. And, you know, this is a little bit of a surprise for me and maybe many other Raptors fans. I felt like this team was really destined to get into a playing position this year, and that's the likeliest scenario at this point, but there is still a very, very good possibility this team can move up. But it all comes down to the game tomorrow against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the reason it's all coming down to this is that the Raptors, they have really wasted some opportunities this season. The main one was probably their most recent game against the Chicago Bulls. You know, I'm not upset, necessarily they lost to the Chicago Bulls. They split 1-1 with the 76ers and the Bulls away from home in both of those games. I think that's pretty good, but I'm more dejected about the manner in which they lost to the Bulls. They really, really did not play well, and they really let the Bulls have it late in the 3rd and the 4th quarter. Credit to the Bulls for the great defense and the way they turned that into offense, but it was a sloppy performance from the Raptors, and knowing what was on the line there, we really could have used it. We could have been 1 game back of the Bulls here. We could have been tied with the Cavaliers in record going into the game against tomorrow, but instead, the situation is 1 game back of the Cavs and 2 games back of the Bulls. Tiebreakers also not in our favor in this scenario. In terms of how difficult the schedules are remaining for all the teams involved, it's pretty similar. The Cavaliers are about middle of the pack in terms of strength of schedule. Same with the Raptors. The Bulls have a little bit of a difficult schedule, but again, a little bit of wiggle room for them in that situation. So, can the Raptors do it tomorrow? Well, absolutely, they are capable of doing it. The Toronto Raptors have proven this season they can beat any team in the league. In fact, almost shockingly, the Toronto Raptors have the best record in the entire NBA against the top 3 teams in each conference at 10-5. This is remarkable for a team sitting 7th in the Eastern Conference. What makes it even more remarkable is the fact that they have lost every single game to the Detroit Pistons this season. Just think about what the Raptors could be doing if they could just beat those bad teams. They always rise up to the level of their opponents, but also they fall down to the level of their opponents. And that is the biggest problem with this team that can be addressed, but we can't really focus on that right now. It is about getting it done tomorrow against the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers team who does not have Jared Allen available. Toronto Raptors do not have OG Anunoby available. And I'm pretty sure you're going to see Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent as questionable. But given how big this game is, given that we had 2 days of rest, I think they are both going to feature in this one. And based on the schedules coming up, this is it. This is it. The Raptors have to finish above the Cavs in the East. If the Raptors lose to this one and they fall 2 games back of the Cavaliers, I seriously doubt in this what little remains of the schedule remaining, the Raptors will be able to make it up. So the season, it comes down to tomorrow. We've talked about the biggest games of the season so far, whatnot. This is the biggest game of the season. And I don't think there's going to be a more important one for the rest of the season. Even if we're in a situation where there's a huge game, it will all come down to if we can win this game tomorrow. And the Cleveland Cavaliers are probably thinking the exact same thing. There's so much riding on these positions because you don't want to go into the play-in tournament. You do not want to go into a play-in tournament as a Raptors where you have to face the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn's probably going to be a lot healthier in that situation. I mean, Brooklyn are still one of the favorites to win the NBA championship, and they're in a playing position. It is a very difficult circumstance for the Raptors. So what needs to happen for the Raptors to get the win tomorrow against the Cleveland Cavaliers? Well, recently we have had a lot of struggles in the shooting department. We are not finding our range. There is no secret about that. That is a big problem for the Toronto Raptors. So on the offensive end, what is going to be important for this team is knocking down threes. And we haven't had a lot of great shooting lately. The person who's been hitting the most has been Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr., but they are doing it very inefficiently. Likely causes are the fact that teams are recognizing, this team doesn't shoot well. Put a lot of bodies and make sure you're defending Fred and Gary, because those are the guys who can get hot from three. That's possible. In order to eliminate that, we got to find a 3-point game from other sources. Pascal Siakam has been doing a good job, giving us 1 to 2 a game typically, which is nice. It makes people D up on him a little bit more, and it gives him some more space on the interior. Also, like I said, takes a little bit of that focus off VanVleet and off Gary Trent Jr. That's going to be important. It's going to be important for just a variety of sources to chip in there. Scotty Barnes can give you like 1 a game. It'd be nice for him to hit one of those above the break threes in this one. Chris Boucher, if he gives you 1 or 2 corner threes, that's huge. And if Precious Achiuwa just hit 1 or 2, just a lot of guys hitting 1 or 2 3-pointers. The Raptors average around 12 3-pointers a game. If we can get at least 10 here, I know we've been struggling. If we get to at least 10, 11 here, that's going to be vital for the success. The second thing offensively is going to be that ball retention, which was just dreadful against the Chicago Bulls. They had, I think it was 27 points off of our turnovers. We only had 3 off of theirs. The Raptors rely on extra possessions because they're not a very efficient team. So they need those offensive rebounds, which they usually and typically get, but they need to limit their turnovers. They have to win the turnover battle more than likely in order to get this game done. That is just a huge part of the way the Raptors play. I also really don't want to see Birch and Achiuwa start together. It's been a very small sample size, but it's been a pretty ugly sample size in my opinion. I just don't think that works. Rotate them. Give Precious Achiuwa the start, in my opinion. I mean, if you want to start Khem Birch, that's fine. Give Precious Achiuwa the bulk of the minutes. I don't think he got enough time against the Bulls, though admittedly he did kind of struggle from 3 in that game. Next thing we got to focus on is the defensive side of the game. The Raptors are a team that puts the focus on the opposition's best players. If another player in the team beats them, that is fine. But you have to adjust to certain things. In the last couple of games against the Cavs, I felt C.D. Osman has been doing really well from 3. Maybe some other sources have been doing really well from 3. Obviously, you got to put a lot of focus on Darius Garland. Obviously, you got to put a lot of focus on Evan Mobley. But as other players grow into the game, as other players start to heat up, you do need to also worry about them. You can't just let it happen. I get that you want other players to beat you, but when they start to beat you, it's time to adjust the game plan, which I think sometimes the Raptors, Nick Nurse, don't do quickly enough. The Raptors got to hang on in this one. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are likely going to be the favorites going into this game. However, it's going to be a very low spread here. And the Raptors, they just can't let the game get away from like it did against the Bulls. 2.5 quarters, we kept up with them, and things just faded away very, very quickly. We can't have those 3 to 5 minute lapses that, despite the fact you play well for 40 to 43 minutes of the game, that 5-minute stretch where you don't play well can lose you the game. And given what's on the line, the Raptors just need to show up and be ready to work. That's the bottom line for me here. This whole season for me has been great. The Raptors have been slightly overachieving, and I am enjoying the ride. This is supposed to be a transition year, a foundation building year, but now we're threatening for a legitimate playoff position where I think we can take on any team in the league and give them a good series. So given that fact, given that we're here in this situation, I obviously want to win, but first and foremost, I want the Raptors to deliver a very good performance here. If they put in a great performance and they just fall to a Cavaliers team who had a really good night, it is what it is. We can try our luck with the play-in tournament or, give it a real go to the end of the season. We got to stay above the Nets, hopefully, and have a home court for that play-in game. Or maybe the Cavs fall apart and we can catch them. There's a lot of factors that go around this. But I want a good performance. It is going to start with other sources other than Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent knocking down threes. It is going to come with ball retention, not turning the ball over, making smart decisions on offense, and it is going to come down to adjusting your defensive game plan on the fly to ensure you are limiting what the Cavs can do. Nick Nurse, to me, if he has time to prepare for an opponent for a series, he comes up with some excellent defensive schematics. They are going to be necessary here against the Cavs. We beat the Cavs. we can move up into that 6th seed potentially. And when we're there and right behind the Chicago Bulls, just maybe we can even move up into that 5th seed and catch the Bulls, who are fading off a little bit. They're 0-16 against the top 3 teams in both conferences, yet look where they are, beating up on the worst teams. But that is how you get your seeding. You beat the teams that you need to beat and pick up your pieces against the top of the league. The Raptors are the opposite. They've been beating the best teams, picking up pieces against the other ones. So can we deliver a performance? This Raptors team is so hot and cold. Let's hope and pray they come out hot against the Cavs. I'm super excited for this game. Like, this is what being an NBA fan is all about. Give me your score predictions and who's going to win in the comments down below. Hopefully it is the Raptors, but that wraps it for me for today. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please, if you did enjoy the video, drop a like to support the channel and let me know you enjoy content just like this. And don't be afraid, for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news, you need to be subscribed to this channel, Amateur Hour Sports. Just hit that button down below. Takes you a second and helps me out a ton. Let's go Raptors. Join my watch party on Twitch for this game tomorrow, 30 minutes before the opening tip. Twitch.tv/amateursports. Link is in the description, and I'll see you again next time for another video.